Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a really intense story. It comes from two people who are convinced they're not just in a legal fight over their house, they believe they're in an all-out war against a massive, hidden conspiracy. Now, it's super important to know, everything you're about to hear is from their perspective. It's all based on one long, detailed conversation where they lay out their side of this pretty incredible legal battle to save their home. So, let's jump right in. Their story really kicks off in what they describe as a super hostile courtroom. They felt like the whole thing wasn't even about the facts of the case anymore. It turned into what they called a totally personal attack. And they say it was all being led by the lawyer on the other side. So you've got this real clash in the courtroom, right? On one side, you've got them saying, hey, we're uncovering a huge fraud here, and we're just defending our home. And on the other side, according to them, is this lawyer who's just painting them as squatters and liars, trying to undermine them in front of the judge. And look, this wasn't just a single bad day in court. They're convinced it's a systematic attack, this whole coordinated campaign to just drown them in paperwork and legal motions. But here's the twist. They say all that pressure is actually what forced them to dig deeper. And that's when they claim they found something way, way bigger. Okay, so let's get into the anatomy of this alleged fraud. The absolute core of their entire argument is that the legal title to their house isn't just a little messy. No, they're claiming it's built on a foundation of decades of deliberate, layered-up fraud. And they're not mincing words here. They literally describe it as one of the biggest fraudulent mortgages in the history of markets. We're talking about this incredibly tangled web of fake officials, inflated property values, insider deals, the whole nine yards. So just to give you a sense of the scale they're talking about, think about this. They went back and traced their property's history for the last 30 years. They found 26 different parties or companies involved. And they claim that out of those 26, a whopping 15 of them are totally fraudulent. That's more than half. So how do they say this scheme actually works? Well, they lay out a pretty methodical playbook. Step 1, you get these robo-signers, fake VPs, fake notaries to just rubber stamp documents. Step 2, you sell properties back and forth between a network of insiders and shell companies to jack up the price and hide where the money's going. And the whole time, they allege the lenders are completely on it and just let it happen. This is where it gets really interesting, because their story basically turns into a detective novel. They start doing their own forensic work, right? And they're connecting dots using these tiny little details. Like, they found a typewriter with this unique flaw, a kicked O, and they claim it physically proves a link between two supposedly separate people involved in the paperwork. It's like a smoking gun for them. So they've uncovered this whole network of people and shady companies. But here's the thing. They don't think these people are the ones in charge. Not at all. They're convinced this is all being run by a much larger, much more powerful hidden adversary, pulling all the strings. So who is it? I mean, who do they think is the ultimate force behind all of this? Their investigation, they say, points to one single entity that's not only orchestrating the real estate fraud, but also the campaign of personal harassment against them. And they don't beat around the bush. They come right out and allege that the organization behind it all is the Church of Scientology. They flat out say these are attacks from Church of Scientology, and they even call the law firm they're up against a Scientology law firm. For them, this is who the real fight is against. And according to them, this is when the battle just explodes out of the courtroom and straight into their personal lives. They talk about this whole campaign of harassment and intimidation. You know, their car gets stolen, their tires get slashed over and over again. They say someone even cut off their car's exhaust system. They describe being followed by identical cars, someone stalking them from a car parked right outside their house, even being intimidated at their front door, which they caught on camera. It's all stuff they believe was designed to scare them into backing down. So let's talk about the human cost of all this, because it's huge. This whole fight has taken a devastating toll on them, and we're not just talking about money here. They say it's completely drained their savings, shattered their peace of mind, and just wrecked their family's sense of safety. And this quote, I think, really gets to the heart of the psychological pressure they're feeling. They say, I'm scared. I'm actively worried. But what's fascinating is what they're worried about. It's not that they think they're wrong about the fraud. No, they're worried that they are going to mess up, that they'll miss a deadline or file the wrong paper in this super complex legal system, and that one little mistake will cost them everything. You know, the emotional strain just became unbearable, and it all came to a head in the courtroom. In what they describe as a moment of just complete desperation. One of them shared a devastating personal tragedy with the judge, that they had recently had a stillborn child. They said it was the only way they could think of to cut through all the legal jargon and show the judge the very real, very painful human cost of what was happening to them. And on top of all that emotional trauma, their finances are just getting hammered. Think about it. They say they've spent $7,000 just on real estate research tools. They've essentially had to become full-time private investigators, funding the whole thing themselves just to try and save their own home. But despite all of this, the emotional cost, the financial drain, they are not giving up. In fact, they have a plan to fight back. And it is, well, it's pretty unorthodox.
So what's the plan? Well, they're not just looking for any old lawyer. Their goal is to find a lawyer who, as they put it, specifically hates Scientologists and is willing to take their case pro bono. And this search apparently led them to some kind of legal fund that has, in their words, an infinite amount of money to fight these exact kinds of cases. But there's a catch. One big condition.
And that condition is this: you can never, ever settle. That's their endgame. They don't want a settlement. They don't want a quiet payout. They are going for a total win in court. No compromise, no backing down. That's the only acceptable outcome for them. So when you're buried under a mountain of paperwork and you believe you're up against this incredibly powerful opponent, what does it actually take to make someone listen, to be heard? Their story, the way they tell it, is really this chaotic, almost desperate search for an answer to that exact question. It's a fight for so much more than a house. It's a fight for their truth to finally see the light of day.